Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. And how good is it to be back here in Australia, taking in that crisp, cold morning air of the Macedon Ranges after 2 weeks over in the States. And I loved it over there, by the way. It was fantastic. But one of the best things about actually going away is actually getting home and jumping in your own bed and waking up and, getting out on the walk this morning and getting back to your routine. And speaking of routines, it's funny, my wife Tara, she said that while I was away, she took him for a walk sort of every 2-3 days, whatever it might have been. But he wasn't too fussed about it. He was just like, yeah, all right, we'll go for a walk. But this morning, he let me sleep in a little bit, but it was funny. He was up and about. He was at the bed, like, come on, Dad, are we going? And he raced down the stairs, and he was at the door and pacing up and down. And it's good to be appreciated as that guy that takes him for his walk. Obviously, he enjoys it. But no, it's just really good to be home. And as I said, out in the elements this morning. It's not too cold actually, which is good. A little bit crisp. But just it's fantastic to be back. So just wanted to thank everyone for all the views of the videos over there, all the comments, opinions, remarks, all that sort of stuff on the videos. It meant a lot, and it really sort of makes it worthwhile. And that's what I'm probably trying to bring to the channel. It's something that maybe other YouTubers don't sort of offer. And I love a lot of the other boxing YouTube channels out there, don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to, my whole thing with this channel is just to take you on a little bit of a different journey. And I know lots of journalists and YouTubers and all that sort of stuff go over to the trips and report on the fights, and that's awesome. They're at the coalface with the press conferences and the weigh-ins, and they get the interviews and all that sort of stuff, and I love it just as much as what you guys do. But my whole thing is to go over there and actually take you on the trip with me and experience the things that go on in a big event or events that we went through or went to over there in the States. So I tried to get as much sort of footage as I could and put it all together and pretty much show you what a day in the life of a trip over there is like. So I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe if you are thinking about maybe coming along in the future, this will sort of give you an idea what you're in for. It's pretty hectic. It's pretty much on the go. I don't, especially in Vegas, it's not usually about the going out to the bars and restaurants, even though, of course, I do occasionally, not the bars, but I do go out and eat or whatever, but it's all just business. It's all about boxing, and I sort of focus the whole trip around that. And it's great fun, but I don't sort of go there just to, as I said, go to restaurants and bars and everything else. I'm there by myself. I'm on a mission, and I just have awesome fun doing it. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Lots obviously happening in the fallout of Tim and Fundora on the weekend. Of course, Usyk, Dubois, Pacquiao, Barrios. Firstly, though, actually, we've got a couple of on these days. I saw, had to catch up on them a fair bit too, because obviously it's been a couple of weeks. But I think the first one was at 1994. Our man, Jeff Harding, lost his world, light heavyweight title to Mike McCallum, the great or late great Mike McCallum. That was back in, as I said, 1994. The other one was in 2011, which was Amir Khan when he stopped Zab Judah in 5 rounds, I think it was, for the 140 pound. Was it 140? There it would have been 140 or 147, whatever it was anyway. And then the other one, back in 1988, I remember this one. I used to like this guy, Tony the Tiger Lopez, won the IBF 130 pound title against Rocky Lockridge, the same title that Rocky had won against Barry Michael in 1987. So Tony Lopez took that belt off him, and I think he was actually a very, very good champion. I can't remember exactly how many defenses he made, but Tony Lopez, when he had the benefit of pretty much having all his fights in his hometown, I think it was Sacramento, California, but very, very good fighter back in the day, and that's what happened on this day in 1988. All right, so again, we had the show last night, Talking Boxing. Look, I really wasn't going to do anything, to be honest. Normally when I get home, it's just a bit of a chill day, but on the way home from the airport, I was was sort of getting messages from people and everything else about my thoughts, and they'd seen the review as well. And thanks again to everyone that watched the review. That had a lot of feedback from it. A lot of people disagreed, and that's fine. That's cool. But a lot of people found it insightful, and I appreciate all the responses on that. But yeah, just on the way home, I thought, geez, well, while it's hot, I may as well jump on while everyone's still discussing it rather than waiting a week when pretty much everything sort of died down. So I jumped on last night. I was actually feeling pretty good. I think I had 7 hours on the plane. I'm one of those fortunate people that can sleep. So I was feeling pretty good. So I jumped on last night, and I asked Daniel Smart and Anthony Cox to come on at short notice. And thanks again to those guys for coming on. And I think it was really insightful what they had to offer as well. And I know it wasn't the usual format where we go through everyone's comments and get some feedback on those comments. It was really just the interview with the guys. But I appreciate everyone that tuned in, which was really good. Actually, the numbers for last night's episode were actually more than we usually get for a normal episode of Talking Boxing. So I appreciate everyone coming on at short notice. I wasn't sure whether everyone would actually get the notification, to be honest, but obviously they did. But look, I've had a fair bit to say about it so far. Obviously after the fight and in the review and then last night, so I won't go over too much. But look, Tim has spoken on social media, and look, there's probably not much he could say, was there? I mean, he pretty much said, look, he dared to be great and the goal doesn't change and all that sort of, really the stuff he has to say. And I thought he was good. I was only a brief sort of thing he put on social media, but look, as I said, I mean, what's he supposed to say? I think he said exactly what was probably, the pin or the points of his thoughts is that, look, we dared to be great. We weren't good enough. Fundora, I think, was a lot better fighter than what he and probably all of us expected in the second time around. But look, he did his best. I suppose, end of the day, as much as we break it down and analyse it and scream to the heavens about why, Fundora was just too good on the day, and maybe we just have to accept that Tim is not the fighter that we thought he was. And I know that's hard to say because I'm a massive fan of Tim like you guys, but we have to take the emotion out of it and look at it for what it is. And, has Tim been maybe a B plus fighter that everyone thought was an A grader? I mean, I'm just putting the question out there. We've all thought he was an A grader all along. It's a pretty exclusive shelf you're on if you are in that elite category. And here comes this friggin' dog again. G'day, buddy. Jeez, he's a good-looking puppy too. Come on, ma'am. Come on, keep moving. Right, she's going to ruin our video. Come on, let's move. But is that the stark reality that we have to face? Is that while all along we thought Tim was one of those A graders, and look, there's the A pluses. That's another level as well. But I would have thought he would have been maybe an A grader. But was he a B or B plus all along? And now we just have to accept it. And everyone's got a theory, and everyone's got a reason, and everyone's got theories and all this sort of stuff about why he hasn't been able to measure up. But is it just the fact that he is not as good as fighter as what we thought he was? I know we talk about the management, we talk about the promotion, we talk about the training. Is all that just irrelevant if the fighter isn't good enough? And again, I don't like to put these questions up because I'm a big fan of Tim, and he's been so good to me when I've been over there, and Glenn and everyone else over there. It's hard to sort of ask the question, but this is what this channel is about: putting it out there and actually asking that question. So, look, I just saw so many. What would you call the flaws? I suppose is the best words to describe it. As far as when, I suppose, after analysing that first Fundora defeat, and it was hard because, of course, the blood. But after watching that a couple of times and looking at it and going, yeah, look, there's some things in there that I can see, but hopefully that they see it as well, and they can work on the flaws and the mistakes. But it just didn't seem the case. And obviously the Murtazalia fight badly exposed those flaws. And he paid that the ultimate cost of getting stopped or knocked out. So and then I suppose we had the fight with Spencer that really just, as I think I said in the video, papered over the cracks as far as what was going on there. I've unlike a lot of fans out there, wasn't that impressed by the win because I simply couldn't take too much out of it. I just thought it was a stock standard win over a very inferior opponent, and he did what he had to do and got him out of there, but it didn't really show, in my opinion anyway, that he'd really fixed those mistakes. And then, of course, we see on the weekend he had a Fundora who had improved, had worked on things, and really, it was a one-sided beatdown, wasn't it? And I don't like to say that, a beatdown, but I mean, that's what it was. So now the big question is where does Tim go and where is he at? I mean, he's in that boxing purgatory, unfortunately, where, he's obviously way too good for Australian boxing. Arguably, you might throw Michael Zerafa in there, but apart from that, he's in that spot of maybe 8 to 12 range as far as the 154 pounders goes, but just a long way off the top sort of 6 or 7, and that's just reality. And so he's got to make the call of, does he want to just be sort of that fringe sort of contender now and maybe get a big fight every now and then and be a 50-50 chance to win, or does he come home and get the payday against Michael Zerafa and then maybe retire? Look, I don't know. My gut feeling is he won't retire at 30 years of age. He just won't. But that's the big question. What does he do then if he decides to keep going? Because unfortunately, at that top level in the States, as far as getting on those big shows over there and getting the title fights and the big names, well, that's not going to happen now. I would think what they're going to do is, they might offer him a spot on one of the cards against maybe some up-and-comers. And does he really want that as well? Does he want to be that opponent for the up-and-comers? So some big decisions that have to be made. Just different perspectives, I suppose, to look at this. And it's not just as simple as saying, yeah, it's all right, Tim, just take 6 months off and come back and fight Zerafa and then you'll be back and then you'll go and do it again. No, so many decisions have to be made. And I did say last night that he was at the crossroads as far as what he needs to do with his team. Now, if he goes left and stays with Uncle Igor and the current team, then I think we're back here in another 18 months' time talking about exactly the same issues. They'll probably get a couple of maybe 2 or 3 easy wins and then he's back and then we're back here again. Or does he turn right and say, this is my career, I get one crack at it. I'm 30 years of age, it's not too late. Do I change my team? Do I change my trainer? Do I change everything? Do I flip everything upside down and give it 100% and give myself every opportunity? Which I think if he did that, who knows? Lots of fighters have turned their careers around by doing that exact thing. And then if it doesn't work, come here, man. Come here, buddy. Then I suppose you can rest easy. But my thoughts are, my opinion, is if he turns left and stays with the current team, I just don't see the point. I don't think the current team in the corner can take him any further. This is nothing, no disrespect against his Uncle Igor, who's done his best. Tim has entrusted him with his career, but it hasn't worked out. At that top level, he just hasn't been able to cut it. So I think for me, the only option is to go right and flip everything upside down and change everything and just see what happens. But I don't envy his position. I mean, I do in one aspect because he's obviously made a shitload of money out of it. He's a superstar in Australia, but he needs to make some hard calls, and unless he does, we're back here again in 12 to 18 months, guys. That's as simple as that, if at all, if he gets back there at all. Because, I don't know, again, I've gone over it in the videos and everything that I've done previously, but, so many technical flaws I just don't think have been fixed. And whether that's Tim not being able to actually implement possible changes they've tried to make, or they haven't been, or the team hasn't been able to actually see those flaws and work on them constructively, then, if that's the case, then he definitely needs to change trainers. But anyway, look, we've all got an opinion. We're all armchair experts. But I think that the main thing is we all want to see the best for Tim and all our Aussie guys. And I just don't see where he goes if he stays the same. You know, as I said, he can come back and do what he did against Spencer and beat 2 or 3, fringe contenders, and everyone's back on the train and everyone's happy and patting him on the back, and he's back, he's a superstar. But I think the real boxing fans know that it's a fugazi, as they say. And the proof is in the pudding about what it's like, you know, when you step up to that absolute elite level and whether you can perform or not. So anyway, look, we'll move on quickly, guys. I know I probably spent the whole video on that. Apologies about that. But hey, well, there's no time limit. We'll just keep going. Some other things happening. The Usyk and Dubois fight on the weekend. Great performance by Usyk. But you did see the reports that Daniel Dubois, his dad, had a house party on the day of the fight in the house that Daniel Dubois lives. And there's footage of Daniel Dubois at the party wandering around, and I think apparently he had to jump in his car and drive himself to the venue, and there was issues about getting in because his car wasn't registered as far as having access to the arena and all this sort of stuff. I mean, this is just comical stuff. If it is the case, geez, his dad's got a lot to answer for, hasn't he? I mean, that is just ridiculous. While Usyk was off meditating and doing, preparing mentally for the fight and physically getting ready for the fight, you've got Dubois at a house party. Are you kidding me? Oh, look, I don't think it would have made that much difference, if I'm being honest. I think Usyk's just the better fighter. But anyway, it was crazy. Speaking of Usyk, this is a question I might sort of cover in the next sort of episode or two, is where does he rank now? You know, it's been talked that he's in the top 5 of all time, top 10 of all time of heavyweights. I don't know. The guy's had 8 fights at heavyweight. 8 fights. Having said that, 6 of them are against Joshua, Fury, and Dubois. So, and the other 2 were the Chaz Witherspoon and was it Derek Chisora? I think it was, wasn't it? Chisora or White? I think it was Chisora. But anyway, so how do you rate him? I mean, geez. So we might discuss that in another episode. But fascinating to hear everyone's views about that, about exactly where does Usyk rate now. Another thing that's happened, Terence Crawford is now, wait for it, the WBO #1 super middleweight contender. The guy has never fought above 154. He's had 1 fight at 154, and now he's given up that interim WBO belt at 154, and now he's the #1 contender. And the WBO, I think, have really entered the equation as far as the most comical sanctioning body out there. I thought the WBA had done it all, and I'd seen it all with them. But the WBO ranking Crawford at #1 in the WBO and trying to justify it. I think what they should have said is pretty much like the WBC did with Pacquiao, and just say, hey, we've got our rules committee or our sanctioning committee, and we've decided that based on Terence Crawford's history and his record and his resume and standing and legacy, all that sort of stuff, we're going to give him a shot. We reserve the right to make the decision. That would have been a lot better than trying to justify that he's the #1 ranked WBO 168 pounder out there. I think people just want to be spoken to like adults. Just say it. I mean, that's what I said with the WBC. As much as I didn't agree with what they said with the Manny Pacquiao situation, at least they just said, no, we reserve the right to give a world title shot to a legend. End of story. And I think we all went, oh, okay. But in this instance, the WBO trying to actually justify it makes them look as silly as what the WBA does with some of their decisions. All they had to do was just say, hey, based on what he's done, we're going to give Terence Crawford a crack at our belt. End of story, and that would have been it. But as I said, they've sort of joined the sweepstakes as far as being the most comical sanctioning body out there now with that response. Looks like Bakram Murtazaliev, I'll spit that out. Bakram Murtazaliev, Erickson Lubin will get it on down the track. I really feel good for Murtazaliev. He's got a fight. I can't believe that he's the IBF world champion and hasn't been able to get a fight for nearly a year since the Tim Tszyu fight. But he's finally got one. Erickson Lubin has stepped up. I don't know why everyone, I mean, he's a killer, but I don't know why a world champion can't get a fight. I know his promotional firm's probably got something to do with it. He's not with the big boys. He's with Main Events, I think, which probably makes it a little bit difficult, but he's finally got that fight with Lubin, so I'm glad he's got the fight. And big one coming up that hasn't really got a lot of attention, come on man, is Sam Goodman. It's only, what, 3 weeks, I think it is, 3.5 weeks until he fights Nick Ball for the WBA featherweight title, and still not much has been said. I actually forgot that that he was fighting for the belt with everything going on at the moment. Even last night when we were doing the top 10 of the Aussies, I will do that in an episode this week too, guys. I reckon we might do an updated Aussie top 10. I did sort of quickly go through it last night off the top of my head, but I'll have a bit more think about it. Maybe rate the girls as well. Yeah, that I actually forgot to put him in my top 10 because he just hasn't been mentioned since he's got this world title fight. And I'm still staggered that, as far as I know, No Limit still haven't really officially announced and backed that fight. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong being away, maybe I've missed a little bit of social media, but not much has been, no updates. Normally No Limit, I know with the Tim Tszyu thing it's all been about Tim, but normally there's video updates and interviews and all this sort of stuff. There's been nothing as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it'll change in the lead up to it now that they haven't really got much to talk about with Tim sort of being on the sidelines now and the fallout of that still happening. I'm sure after another week or so they'll be looking for things to report, and he will get his time in the limelight or spotlight. But yeah, again, surprised that we haven't really seen much from him. So guys, look, I think that's sort of about it for today. Look, give me your thoughts on Tim. I know there'll be lots of people saying to you, well, can we just forget about Tim for a second? But look, guys, whether you like it or not, and you're sick of talking about it, this is the news story of the week. And this is what we speak about. And yes, it was great. I suppose if you want to have a quick chat about Pacquiao and Barrios, really happy for Manny Pacquiao. I thought he won the fight. Barrios, I cannot believe, has a belt around his waist. Actually, I will comment on that just quickly, actually, before we go. Now, I don't know what it is these days with young fighters out there, or certain fighters, but since when you're a defending champion, excuse me, or any boxer for that matter, do you go out for all 12 rounds and touch gloves with your opponent as a show of respect? I just could not believe what I was seeing. To go out there and touch his gloves, it was almost just like a friendly sparring session. It was ridiculous. Manny Pacquiao came to fight. Barrios just tippy-tapped and touched gloves and hugged and all this bullshit that he went on with. I mean, that is embarrassing. And even when I didn't sort of see it on the night, but I have seen clips since, that his trainer was saying, don't show him as much respect, don't touch gloves and don't do this and don't do that. Don't listen to what Manny's doing, because Manny was sort of stopping play, I suppose, and pulling up his trunks and talking to the referee, and Barrios was just standing there letting him do it. And his corner was saying, do not listen to Manny. He's not controlling the fight. The referee's controlling the fight. You keep fighting. And he kept doing it. If I was a trainer, I would have said, first of all, you're very, very lucky you've still got that belt around your waist, but don't you ever, ever do that again. This is warfare, guys. I know in this sanitized and watered down world we live in these days, you know, a lot of this stuff is taboo, but hey, you're in a fight. This is what it is. It's a fight. Break it all down, you are in a fight. And you're touching gloves and being all nice and cuddly and everything else. Look, and I love what Jeff Fenech said about it as well. He said, look, you touch gloves twice in the fight. First of all, in the center of the ring, when you go before the first round, and touch gloves before the end of the last round, and that is it. And in between, it is on. So I'm just staggered that this guy has managed to get through his career so far with an attitude like that, especially calling himself the Aztec Warrior. I mean, come on, that's not a warrior. That's not a warrior. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So guys, look, having said that, we'll call it a day. Again, really appreciate all the messages and comments and everything from everyone over while I was overseas. Hopefully we can do it again soon, and look forward to having you along on that. So until tomorrow, guys, have a great Wednesday, and we'll catch you then.